This week, Games Workshop revealed something absolutely massive. It's been a huge shock. You're never going to believe it. It's Space Marines! Yes, that's right. Up is still up, water is still wet, and the global south is still suffering the fallout of European colonization. Still though, this isn't your usual week. This isn't your usual Space Marine release, because there's something else going on here. Something secret. Something that can only be seen if you look hard enough. And also have spent the last week or so laboriously going through Games Workshop's model library like you got nothing else to do. Hey, cut me some slack here. My city's currently engulfed in race riots. Forgive me if I want to stay in for a while. To explain what I mean, we're gonna first need to talk all about the new model releases that Games Workshop have revealed this week. And as we go through them, see if you can spot what's going on. And then, we're gonna talk about that. Now, all these new Space Marine models are for the Blood Angels chapter. So they're still Space Marines, but their lore is that they're always spilling blood and that they're trapped in the midst of a black rage and obsessed with the color red. So, basically Space Marines in their emo phase. Still, we're better to start our journey investigating the red painted Space Marines with the new white painted apothecary model, or sanguinary priest as they are called in the Blood Angels. These guys are pretty important in the lore for the Blood Angels chapter. You gotta keep the chalices of blood coming, know what I'm saying? No, seriously though, Blood Angels are addicted to blood, like I'm addicted to catching HIV and not telling my sexual partners. And much like HIV, I think that the new model is fine, I guess. Honestly, no, I'm just being nice here. It's disappointing. He mostly just looks like a normal apothecary. I mean, sure, he has the chalice that's designed to be filled with blood to feed his fellow vampire Space Marines. You can see it there attached to his belt, but it's not really the focus of the model. In fact, overall, he looks like he's just checking his Pip-Boy for the time. I guess he's waiting for his opponent to finish their turn in a game of Warhammer 40,000, am I right, fellas? Yeah, well, nobody plays the game anyway. In contrast though, the old version of this model really featured the chalice prominently. This sanguinary priest really wanted you to drink his blood. He must be in the HIV chaser scene too. And plus, I miss the extensive robes. What can I say? Robes on power armor, they just look cool. It's why I like Black Templar. He does get some points though for not having a dead model on his base. Not sure why every single medic these days seems to be tripping over a dead model on their base. Space Marines, Sisters of Battle, they're all peering down, presumably at a person that they've just accidentally killed, because medical knowledge in Warhammer consists of leeches, bloodletting, and ketamine, I guess. One upside though is that this model has some head options. Yay! Though, to be honest, I don't really like the unhelmeted ones. I can see now why most Space Marines are bald. Let's just put the helmet back on. Then we get to the captain. Oh no. So yeah, I'm gonna have to register this model as a hate crime. Firstly, he looks very uninspired. He's incredibly generic and he does not excite me at all, which is strange because I usually get very excited by short guys. The Blood Angel detailing is fine here. It's a bit bare. I like his little belt, I suppose, with his wee vial of blood, but otherwise, dull. What gets me is that every time I look at him, I get this weird Eldar vibe. Seriously, compare him to an Eldar Guardian. They have the same supple abs, the same slim waist, and oh dear God, no nipples! Games Workshop have done it again! Their crusade against nipples continues! Nipplegate just got worse! Come on! Why are they doing this? The older Blood Angels models used to be covered in nipples. When they went to battle, milk would flow like blood. And I know that people kinda hated it, but I loved it. I loved the nipples. And honestly, I feel vindicated by this change because this new captain demonstrates that when you don't have nipples on your man tits, the chest just looks bare and blank, like they took away his power. They made him weak. No, not a fan of this at all. Overall though, I gotta say this model is a feel. Though, I will say, I do like the alternate golden version of this model with the golden helm. That looks pretty cool. I really dig that helm, and it really reminds me of this classic art. I just wish that the captain had been posed to actually match this really classic art. That would have been sick. Would have been an awesome callback to some really iconic pieces of work in Warhammer. But there is a reason why they haven't done that. There is a reason why he is posed the way he is, and it's absolutely wild. Do you spot it? Well, we're gonna get into it soon, because Games Workshop have also shown off this new Blood Angels Army box. Oh yes indeed, it wouldn't be a new Games Workshop release without a big massive FOMO box. This trend of releasing an army box for every single release continues. And yes, I am aware that I have about 7 million videos criticizing this decision. Add this one onto the pile. I don't like it. What can I say? The worst thing though is that this army set is probably the worst one they've ever released yet. Firstly, the box comes with two new models. But otherwise, it's filled with Primaris Intercessors, a Dreadnought, and more Primaris Intercessors. These are all standard models that exist already. So they're basically attacks on any Blood Angels players who already have a collection at all. These are extremely basic purchases. Every single existing Blood Angels players already owns these models. But Games Workshop have tried to obfuscate that and pretend that they're different by calling them Death Company Intercessors as if they're new. But what they mean by that is that they've just taken normal Intercessors and thrown on an upgrade sprue for Blood Angels rather than actually doing the work of creating actual new miniatures, you know, because that would be a lot of work and effort. And that's wild because the Death Company used to have their own miniatures and they used to look really cool. I mean, just compare the difference. Here's your upgraded Primaris, and then here's the old school Death Company. Sure, they're a little old, but look at the details. There's no confusing these guys for anyone that isn't obsessed with blood play in the bedroom. Okay, so the Primaris are a bit more 4K, but they have a lot less style. What, they've got a few new heads, some shoulder pads, otherwise they are identical to any other chapter. And the same goes for the Dreadnought in this box too. The old Death Company Dreadnought had a ton of personality. Look at this thing. He even has death written on there. Alongside, Enosh? Yeah, Enosh. Classic. Where the hell is Enosh here? Sure, it looks fine, but that's because I already like the Brutalis Dreadnought. I've seen the model before. It's standard. It doesn't look special for Blood Angels. It's a massive disappointment. And then obviously in this box you get 4 upgrade sprues, and in theory I actually don't mind upgrade sprues. They're basically DLC for your miniatures, but these sprues are very overpriced, even for Games Workshop. And this Blood Angels one isn't particularly impressive. In fact, there is a huge red flag in here. Can you spot it? Can you see it? Because I can't look away now, but we're gonna get into that later too. But first, some good news, because the 2 new models in this army box are actually really cool. First, there's Asorath the Grim, who, certainly looks grim. The design of this guy's hair incessantly reminds me of Grim Skull, the character from the hit kids TV show Skeleton Warriors. Skeleton Warriors! A show which started my obsession with boners. A bit of discourse trivia for you there. I dig Asorath's wings. I like his little skulls and his knee pads. They look just like smiley faces. And his pose is cool. He's swinging down with his axe onto some poor heretic. What more could you ask for? This is basically an upscaled HDR 4K remake of the old version of the model, and I think it works. I think it looks good. I mean, I'm so on his weird nano-weave, fleshy HR Geiger armor though. It makes him look like he's been soaking in a bathtub for 3 years, but you know, it's a little bit different. It's not your standard power armor, so I'm gonna let him have it. Especially with a face like that. Who could say no? But I've saved the best for last, because genuinely, we now have a model that is seriously a contender for the best Games Workshop Space Marine model that they've ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Chaplain Lemartes, and he is a lot. I really love this model. He looks so weird in all the right ways, like Barry Keoghan. His pose is so evocative, like he's screaming at the enemy or his mom. And this model demonstrates that Games Workshop can actually sculpt jump pack models that aren't standing on their tippy toes. Hallelujah, this is how it's done. Also, great to see some BDSM representation. This guy's got a ball gag and a skull mask, demonstrating that this here is a man who will suck for blood. stud. I love the ribcage, I love the necklace that has fallen askew, the ornate detailing on his legs, and, you know, he looks a little squat. Overall, he's great. It's a fantastic sculpt. It's full of personality, and probably cum. So, okay, there's some bright spots in this release, but overall, it's disappointing. But it's just your average release, right? No big deal. Well, no, not quite, because when reviewing these models, I started to spot something. See, Games Workshop are doing a little thing these days I like to call the copy and paste job, where this is where they simply copy and paste older models. And I've been speculating about this for a while in the past, but this time I think it's incontrovertible. For example, remember that new Blood Angel captain? Well, there's something very old about him, because he had a very specific pose, right? Very specific. Well, there's a reason. Turns out he's not alone in that uncomfortable position, because the Lieutenant with Storm Shield model has an identical pose too. And when put side by side, these models are clearly digitally sculpted, rigged from the same skeleton. We really have strayed far from God's hand sculpting, haven't we? But that's not all. Remember the upgrade sprue? Yeah, that new product that is the only reason that some of those generic intercessor models even vaguely look like Blood Angels? Well, turns out it's filled with reused assets as well, simply copy and pasted from across the Space Marine model line. For example, this sword, it's identical to the existing Lieutenant's power sword, right down to the holy beads being replaced with a little blood vial. And it's not alone. Looking through the Dark Angels upgrade sprue is the same. There's the exact same sword arm here, only they have a feather instead of a blood vial. Oh, and while we're looking at the Dark Angels upgrade sprue, here's another one. Another match for a different power sword arm that is identical to one in the Blood Angels upgrade sprue. This is almost as blatant as the Jump Pack Intercessor captain being a copy paste of the Jump Pack Sergeant. Bear in mind, Games Workshop are charging £21.50 or $35 for these upgrade sprues, and that's on top of the £40, $63 for the Intercessor models in the first place. If you're paying near $100 for 10 guys, I don't think it's too much to ask for them to look wildly different from one another. Games Workshop should be adding enough parts here into these upgrade sprues to introduce radically different poses for models and wildly different looks to the weapons. Instead, we're just getting the same assets resold over and over and over again. It's gotten so bad that Games Workshop models now look like recasts of their own model line. The entire modern Space Marine model range suffers from this, and it's getting worse now that Games Workshop have decided that the 12 different colored Space Marines all deserve their own model ranges that must be very quick and cheap to make because they look it, which honestly wouldn't be the biggest deal if it wasn't for the pricing on these. If this upgrade sprue was like $10, you know, about the level of an impulse buy, I'd say sure, go nuts, go right ahead, make it quick and easy, add in some custom heads, slightly tweak some swords, but they're not that cheap. There's 4 upgrade sprues in this box, and they're being used to inflate the price. And as a result, this army set is likely to cost over $200, maybe much, much more. That is an insane price for a number of generic models and copy-pasted assets. But how are they getting away with it? Because they're putting 2 new models inside there and pushing it with FOMO. So please resist that. Please resist the FOMO that Games Workshop are pushing with this new army box, because this new army box did not cost them much to put together at all. The price is going to be extremely high. Hopefully after this box, Games Workshop will go back to fleshing out some of the actually visually distinct armies soon. Although please don't touch the Dark Eldar. They are perfect already. Okay, fine. 1 quarter of the Archon release, please. Still, overall, it just feels like 40k releases have been pretty lackluster recently, especially when compared to Age of Sigmar, where Games Workshop have been absolutely killing it in terms of model design. So I wonder what's going on there. And if you're curious about Age of Sigmar, check out my extremely poor taste review of the game system up on Patreon right now at patreon.com/discourseminis, and help me continue to produce content, as well as get access to exclusive live streams, a fun hobby community, and bonus videos every single month. And a massive thanks to my patrons, especially CryptoCav, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye bye.